What's up guys, welcome back to another video. It's a sad video. Well, it could be a sad video, it could be a happy video, depending on how stuff works out. I'm gonna remove the engine. As you've seen in my last video, there was something wrong with the engine. Now, I don't know if this is normal. The whole piston is loose. I took the head off to see what was wrong and I saw that the piston was moving a lot. So I'm planning on taking out the engine. Now it's not something I was planning on doing it, but it has to be done. I feel really bad for taking this engine apart. JMPB sent me that exhaust to make the engine run better and now something is wrong with it. We were so close on completing this bike and now we're taking a major step back. Have to take out the engine and see what's wrong with it. Worst case scenario, it's the piston that is too small. I can order a new piston. The crankshaft feels good. If I turn the clutch, I feel no play, I feel no grinding, I feel nothing. It's like it's perfect. So it's all in the piston cylinder. Could be the connecting rod, I don't know. So we're just gonna take it out, take some measurements and see what's wrong with it. Now to take out the engine, and this is the annoying part with this type of bike, you have to take off the clutch to get the engine out. There's no way you can leave the clutch on there. We're gonna use this tool to stop the piston, but to stop the piston, we need to put the head back on. So I got the head right here. Okay, now we're just gonna insert this tool. Also, you can buy this on JMPB parts. Move the engine back. Now I'm also gonna take out the electrical. I'm gonna loosen the belt. And now we can take off the clutch. Looks good, but not perfect. Now we can loosen up these bolts. Okay, everything is free. Now when we pull out these bolts, the engine should pop out. And there it is. So, the engine is out. Time to take the bike off the table. So, now the moment that I'm most scared of, taking the cylinder off. Take off this gasket. Well, it looks all fine. This got a lot of play. Let's take out the piston. I mean, the crankshaft got a little bit, but not that much. I can't really see what's wrong with it at first glance. I guess I'm gonna have to take some measurements. Okay, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna clean up these parts and then we're gonna have a better look of what's happening because now it's all oily and dirty. But on first glance, nothing seems to be broken. I can still see the scoring, except for the piston. I mean, it got play, but not that much. I don't know, I'm gonna clean them up and see what's wrong. So the whole engine is apart and I cleaned everything. Now we're gonna do some measurements and see what is wrong with it. As I'm going along, I'm gonna put high-res pictures on the screen so you can see better because filming this is gonna be hard. First up, let's start with the base where the whole electrical system, the crankshaft and everything is. The bearings feel smooth. I hear no sounds of something that is wrong. No play in the crankshaft. On the crankshaft arm, there's a little bit of movement, but not up and down. So the bearing is still good. It's just the tolerance of how the crankshaft can slip like this. So there's always a little bit of that, not a big worry. So the cylinder head is from a different company than the body, the cylinder body, let's call it like that, and the piston rings. This is a Malossi cylinder head, a well-known brand, so I'm not really concerned with this part. Again, we have some leaking on the decompression valve, but I can fix that. That is pretty easy. So I'm not really worried about this part. I have to say, I didn't find any cracks. Nothing is broken. Everything looks like it should. What I mean by that is nothing looks out of place, nothing is broken, nothing like that. So let's start off with the cylinder body. Now, as I can see from the inside of the cylinder wall, there is not much damage. Everything is smooth, no big scoring, no cracks, no nothing. What I can see, and what I will show you in a picture, where the piston ring sits, or where it comes together, there's a little bit of burning there. You will see it in the picture, you will see what I mean. So that is one of my concerns. The whole piston assembly doesn't match up with this cylinder. I have to say the cylinder looks really rough. When you look at the Malossi, this face is nice and shiny. When I look at the cylinder body, it is rough. But we can do that. We did that with the RCX, no biggie. So this looks good. The crosshead pattern inside the cylinder wall is still there, so no extreme wear. I have to say, this engine only ran for like 10 kilometers. So if you are thinking, well, it's an old cylinder, it's wear down, this is all brand new. The only stuff that is from an older engine is the crankshaft case, but I checked that, everything is perfect. I drilled out the intake, the electrical stuff, the flywheel and the clutch. That is the only thing. The crankshaft is new, the studs are new, the head, the body, the piston rings, everything is new. So now let's look at the piston. For a piston that only ran for like 10 kilometers, there is a lot of discoloration on the body, on the sides where the piston meets the cylinder wall. There's a lot of burning. Even past the second piston ring, I can see burning on the side where the gap is, where the piston rings closed up. What I also can see is that I still have all the like the ridges. When they machined this piston, you have the little ridges. I can still feel them. So the piston is not worn down. I can see a couple of spots where it's starting to wear down, mainly where we have these slots. But for the rest, it looks pretty good. It looks brand new except from discoloration. Something is wrong with this piston. So I'm leaning more of the combination between piston and cylinder wall is gonna be wrong. So after I saw this, the discoloration, I started to look at the piston rings. This is where everything seals up. Now when I look at the piston rings, you have this opening right here, and where it's all the way closed, it looks pretty smooth, pretty straight. One side is totally flat, but on the other side, it looks like it was grinded down. I don't know what it is, but it looks like somebody took grinder and said, oh, need more clearance, and grinded it down. Really weird. I can see it right now, and this piston ring is not good. Not good at all. So that may be our problem. So what I'm thinking is that the whole piston rings and the cylinder are wrong. So we can move this to the side. That is not wrong. And we can move this to the side. So our main focus is right here. Now you could say, hey, you didn't order the right combination of piston and cylinder. I have to prove you wrong because this was one kit. I bought this. This was the complete kit. So now I'm gonna take some measurements. Now I don't have a digital caliper, but I have to do with a manual one. It's like 43. If I'm correct, this should be smaller. And it's a little bit smaller, but not by much. I'm gonna have to buy some digital calipers. It is like 42.9. This is like 43. So we have some play. Is it too much? Is it not too much? Is it just the piston rings? But when I slide it in here, I'm gonna do a little test that I did with the RCX. I'm gonna put it down on a flat surface. And then I'm gonna drop in the piston and it should slow down. It slows down. So that is good. That means that the gap isn't too big. It looks the same like I did with the RCX. The only thing that I can see is the piston rings are wrong. So I'm gonna measure the gap clearance. Put a little oil in the cylinder wall and on the piston rings. Now I'm just gonna push them in there and see what kind of clearance we have. I'm gonna check with my feeler gauge. Check 0.5. No. 0.45. So the piston ring gap on the bottom one is 0.45. Let's take this piston ring back out. Check the upper one. It's between 0.3 and 0.35. But what I can see, this piston ring, nah, this is not good. I'm gonna try to show you. So I'm gonna try to do it this way. Look at that. So we clearly have a piston ring issue. It doesn't look good. It cannot seal. It absolutely cannot seal. So that is why our piston is burning. And I don't know about the gap. I'm gonna check Google. Piston ring gap 50 cc. I know it's 65, but I just want to see what's 50. Did some research on the piston ring gap and I think I found the problem. Well, one of the problems. Now the most frustrating thing about looking stuff up online is that it's in centimeters or it's in inches. So that was a whole deal. So I have to do some conversions. So what they are saying to me is that you have to measure your inside bore right here and then multiply it by a certain number. Now this number is 0.004. Now this is in inches, but we are measuring in millimeters. So I had to convert the bore size into inches. So we have 4.3 centimeters of bore size. That converts to 1.69 inches. What we now need to do is multiply 1.69 to 0.004 and that gives us 0.0067 inches. Now when we convert that back to millimeters, we have 0.17. So that is our end gap. That is how much play we can have minimum end gap on our piston rings. Now we have 0.45, almost triple the number that we can minimum have. Even if we don't take into consideration that the rings are not polished yet or not cut right, because they look wonky as what. This will never work. We need new piston rings. That's the only thing we need, or what I can see, to get this engine going again. So I'm pretty happy that it's not a big issue. Nothing broke, nothing is worn down. It all comes to these rings. These rings are bad. The piston is good. It got play in it, but we have a good seal. It's close enough. So what I'm now gonna do, I'm gonna contact JMPB Parts, explain the whole thing, see what they have to say about these piston rings and these kits that they are selling. If we can come to a solution, what I can do if I have to change the whole piston and piston rings. I don't know, I'd rather just replace the piston rings, but we'll see. This project isn't lost. There's still something else. The bearing can move around freely. Now it's not much. Let me check how much it is. The bearing can move like almost 4 millimeters. That's not a big issue. The bearing should move around, but I want to make that movement slightly less. So I'm gonna try getting spacers for this that fit right, copper spacers. I'm not gonna use metal spacers, I'm gonna use copper spacers. So the bearing sits more in the center of the crankshaft and the piston. So that should eliminate also some movement and some wear and tear. But for now, I'm just gonna have to order parts. Even the gasket, I broke the gasket. If I can get new piston rings from JMBB Parts, I'm gonna order the gasket. I don't know if I'm gonna have to do something special because this is a bigger board than the stock one. This is a 65cc engine. But yeah, now we know the problem. I'm so happy nothing really broke. Nothing is severely damaged. It all looks fine. Glad that this is okay, that we don't have any play in the bearings. I don't want to open up this again, but it looks like we're gonna fix it. Of course, I'm gonna have to fix the head, get that all sorted out. If I get new piston rings, I can flatten this, so that will sit nice and perfect. It looks pretty flat, but if it's polished, I mean flattened, it would be better. So now it all comes on what parts I can buy and how it all works out, but I'm glad that nothing broke. The project can still go on. This engine will run. So that is gonna be it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like and a comment down below. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram, and I'll see you in the next one.